The arrangement. The city lights shimmered like liquid gold on the glass walls of the Valier skyscraper. Ethan Valier, CEO of Valier Holdings, stood in his office overlooking the skyline, fingers drumming against the mahogany desk. His empire was vast, unyielding, and precise, but tonight none of it mattered. The papers before him dictated a choice he had avoided for years: marry before his 40th birthday, or watch his company fall into the hands of distant relatives who would squander everything he had built. He poured himself a glass of scotch and stared at the amber liquid, the warmth doing nothing to soothe the cold knot in his chest. Love had betrayed him 7 years ago. His fiancée had left him at the altar, lured away by promises of luxury and influence. Since then, Ethan had perfected detachment. People were messy. Business was clean. Gerald, his assistant, stepped into the room with a tablet. "I've arranged a meeting," he said quietly. "She's not like the others." Ethan arched an eyebrow. "Define not like the others." "Celine Marcus," Gerald explained. "Artist, struggling. No ambition to climb socially. Desperate because of her brother's illness. Desperate." Ethan almost laughed. He had no patience for desperation, except when it could serve a purpose. The arrangement was simple. She would pose as his wife, attend events, and maintain appearances. In return, he would cover her brother's medical bills and provide her a comfortable living. After 2 years, they would part quietly, and she would have a secure future. No romance, no complications. The meeting was at a quiet cafe downtown. Ethan expected a sob story, a calculated smile. What he found was Celine, sitting with paint-stained fingers and eyes that were a soft, stormy gray, shimmering faintly in the dim light. Her skin carried a subtle purple hue, and her auburn hair fell loosely around her shoulders. She was beautiful, not flashy but quietly radiant. He outlined the terms. She listened, silent, hands folded. When he finished, she asked only one question: "Will my brother receive the best care possible?" "Yes," Ethan replied. She nodded, swallowing hard. "Then I accept." No negotiation. No pleading. Just a quiet, resolute agreement. Ethan felt an unfamiliar tug, a mixture of admiration and unease. The wedding was private, minimal, devoid of flowers or music. She wore a borrowed white dress. He wore his usual suit. They signed the papers, exchanged plain gold bands, and left separately for his mansion. The estate sprawled over 5 acres. Modern steel and glass architecture, 12 bedrooms, indoor pool, and an art studio that could rival any gallery. It was breathtaking and profoundly empty. Ethan showed her to her room, the walls painted in soft creams, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the gardens. "Gerald will arrange your wardrobe and transport. Your brother is in the city's best hospital. Everything else is yours within reason. My bedroom is off limits." She nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Thank you." That night, silence hung between them like a fragile thread. Ethan returned to his study, poring over documents while Celine explored her new home. She discovered the sunroom, its light perfect for painting. Setting up her easel, she felt a strange mixture of fear and hope. Ethan, walking past the sunroom, paused. For a moment he watched her. A human, an alien, a life completely foreign to him. Yet the pull he felt was undeniable. The rules were clear, emotions were forbidden, but in the quiet mansion, with the city sparkling beneath them, the first cracks in Ethan Valier's armor had begun to form. The following morning, sunlight spilled into the Valier estate, painting Celine's sunroom with warm hues. She moved gracefully between her canvases, each brushstroke a mixture of longing and escape. Painting had always been her solace, but now it carried an added weight. The knowledge that her presence in this mansion was temporary, transactional. Yet as she mixed colors, she felt a strange awareness of someone watching. Ethan, in his tailored suit, stood at the doorway, silently observing her. He had promised himself detachment, yet he found himself drawn to the delicate curve of her shoulders, the intensity with which she approached her art, the stormy gray of her eyes that seemed to see everything yet reveal nothing. He cleared his throat and she flinched, a smile tugging at her lips. "Your brother?" he asked, stepping closer, his voice softer than usual. "Stable. Today was a good day," Celine replied, pausing to wipe her fingers on a rag. The soft lavender hue of her skin seemed to glow in the sunlight. "Thank you, Ethan. For everything." He nodded but said nothing, turning instead toward the window, pretending that his interest in her well-being was purely professional. Still, he found excuses to linger, asking about her art, her days, subtle questions that carried weight. Each word, Each glance chipped away at the walls he had built around himself. Later that evening, they attended a charity gala, Celine in a deep emerald gown, her hair loosely curled, and Ethan in a classic black tuxedo. They walked together, an image of grace and composure. Whispers followed them. Everyone assumed the marriage was a convenient social arrangement, yet there was something electric, almost magnetic, in the way they moved together. After the gala, back in the mansion, Celine retreated to her room, exhausted. Ethan, unexpectedly, found himself outside her door, unsure why he was there. A soft noise, a whisper, a sigh made him pause. Gently, he pushed the door open. She was seated on the edge of the bed, hands clasped, eyes glistening with tears. "Celine," he said, stepping inside. The distance he maintained for weeks evaporated. I worry," she admitted, voice trembling. "About my brother, my life, everything." Ethan knelt beside her, instinct overriding his usual cold detachment. He brushed a stray lock of auburn hair from her face. "You're stronger than you realize," he murmured. His hand lingered near hers, almost accidental, almost deliberate. She looked up at him, eyes wide, vulnerable. And for the first time, Ethan felt the walls around his heart falter. A warmth spread through him. A dangerous, thrilling pull he had not expected. He could sense her fear, her hope, her humanity, and it made the empire he had built seem suddenly hollow. I don't know how to do this," she whispered, voice barely audible. "Neither do I," Ethan confessed, heart thudding. And in that quiet moment, a tentative touch, fingers brushing fingers, spoke louder than any vow or contract. The night stretched on, heavy with unspoken words, yet charged with possibility. In the vast mansion, two souls who had never truly sought each other began to bridge the distance. The rules, the arrangement, the detachment, they all seemed meaningless now. And somewhere deep inside, Ethan Valier knew that his carefully controlled life was beginning to unravel. The rain began quietly that evening, a steady rhythm against the mansion's tall glass windows. Celine sat in her sunroom, the storm's reflection flickering across her paintings. She was trying to focus on her canvas, but her thoughts drifted back to the charity gala, to the way Ethan's hand had lingered just a little too long on her back. She could still feel the warmth of it. In the library, Ethan couldn't focus either. His laptop glowed with reports and stock projections, yet his mind kept circling back to the sound of her laughter earlier that day. Soft, rare, genuine. It had slipped past his defenses like light seeping through cracks in stone. He pushed away from his desk, his chest tight, and found himself walking down the long hallway toward her room before reason could stop him. Celine didn't hear him approach until she felt his presence. He carried a certain gravity with him, silent but heavy. She turned, brush still in hand, her eyes uncertain. "Can't sleep?" she asked. He shook his head. "No, you?" "Trying to paint, but my mind's too loud," she admitted, setting the brush down. The lamplight caught the soft violet undertones of her skin, making her look otherworldly. The colors on her fingertips, shades of rose and silver, glimmered faintly as she wiped them against a rag. Ethan took a slow step closer. "What do you hear when your mind gets loud?" She gave a small laugh. "Everything I'm trying to forget." He understood that more than he cared to admit. Silence settled between them, but it wasn't empty. Outside, thunder rolled, echoing the slow, unsteady rhythm of his heart. "You know," she said quietly, "I thought this arrangement would feel like a cage. But lately, it doesn't." He froze, his jaw tightening, torn between instinct and emotion. "Careful, Celine. Cages can change shape. They can start to feel like comfort if you stay too long." Her eyes searched his face. "Is that what happened to you?" The question hit him harder than he expected. He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "I built my walls high for a reason. And now?" she whispered. He looked at her, really looked. The vulnerability, the strength, the quiet resilience that drew him in like gravity. "Now they're starting to crack." She didn't move away when he reached out. His hand hovered near her cheek before brushing lightly against her skin. Her breath hitched, but she didn't pull back. The distance between them dissolved in an instant, as natural as the storm outside breaking into thunder. Their lips met, soft at first, tentative, like a confession whispered between breaths. Then deeper, more certain, as if years of denial had finally given way to something real. The world outside vanished. No contracts, no obligations, just two people colliding in a moment that neither had planned for. When they finally parted, the rain had turned into a downpour, drowning the city beyond the windows. Celine's pulse raced beneath his fingertips. "We can't," she murmured, though her voice lacked conviction. "I know," he replied, still close enough for her to feel his breath. "But tell me you don't want this." She closed her eyes, her hands trembling as she rested them against his chest. That would be a lie. The night stretched into something fragile, forbidden, and beautiful. For the first time, the mansion didn't feel cold. For the first time, Ethan didn't feel alone.